Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today in this video, we're going to be talking about 4 different baits that I throw when I'm offshore fishing that just do not get the attention that they deserve. You know, these are baits that I've experimented with, and they're the result of just many hours looking at different ways to catch fish that haven't necessarily been as widespread. You know, as fishing pressure continues to ramp up on the best fisheries, like Lake Chickamauga is a great example. You know, we're all trying to find new ways to get these fish to react. And during the summer months when I'm fishing, you know, the ledges and the offshore stuff, the current-oriented structure, you know, it's always something that is on my mind. What else could I throw to get these schools of fish to react that are just not seeming to react to the same stuff anymore? So I've got 4 different baits here, 4 different presentations that over, you know, the last 5 or 6 years, I've started throwing it. I don't really see a whole lot of people throwing these. Some of them, you know, people definitely throw. A few of them, I haven't seen hardly anybody throw them. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first bait that I want to talk about is traditionally known as a early spring grass bait. You know, if you got a shallow grass flat and you're trying to cover a lot of water, this is a bait that is super well known. And of course, we're talking about a lipless crankbait. Lipless crankbait is definitely known for its shallow water fishing success, but it is also very good offshore in deep water because it is not a buoyant bait. It sinks like a rock, and because it sinks, you can get it down to some great depths. And you know, even if you're fishing 25 feet of water, you know, a lipless crankbait can get down there very efficiently, and it's got the right profile, the right action. It creates a lot of sound generally, depending on the model that you're using. And one of the things that I experience on Lake Chickamauga and like the Tennessee River lakes during the summertime on the ledges is you're trying to get a bait down there that looks like a shad, number one, and has the ability to get a reaction strike. So has a really fast fall, has some flash to it, or you know, also has a lot of sound. And of course, the lipless crankbait has all of that. So usually what I'm doing with a lipless crankbait out deep offshore is I'm yo-yoing it. So I'll cast it out to the school and I'll just rip it off the bottom like you would like a flutter spoon or something like that, and let it fall back down. And usually the fish will eat it on the fall. So it's really just a yo-yo technique, and you're trying to get fish to react that way. So usually I'll use a lipless crankbait that falls pretty fast. There's some that have a pretty slow fall. I don't think that those are as effective as the ones that just really rock it down to the bottom. This one's kind of like in between. This is XR50, which obviously is discontinued. They've got the Booyah ones now. But this style is really good because it does have a little bit of a shimmy. It does tend to fall, you know, kind of upright. Strike King Red Eye Shad is another one, but those are pretty slow falling. So if you have like a lipless crankbait, like let's say the Spro Uruku Shad, this one falls pretty fast. It still falls kind of nose down. When it hits the bottom, it rests nose down, which is great. But a fast-falling lipless crankbait can be a really good tool for you offshore to get fish to react. And there's not a lot of baits that do what a lipless crankbait does that are small enough to imitate some of the you know, smaller shad down there. The next bait that I want to show you is really similar to a lipless crankbait. In fact, the lipless crankbait was the gateway drug to this next technique for me, which I really hadn't used this category of lure much before moving to the Tennessee River. And this is one that a lot of anglers are going to get on here and say, I've been using that for years. That is not a sneaky bait, but it is for a lot of the country. A lot of the country just does not fish this category of lure. But on the Tennessee River, it seems to be pretty popular, especially during the wintertime. But we're talking about a blade bait. This right here is the Demiki Volt. Out of all the different blade baits that I've fished, This by far is my favorite if I'm trying to imitate, you know, smaller, just average sized 2-inch, 2.5-inch threadfin shad. It just has better components than most. It comes with, you know, the split ring, which I really like. I don't like the blade baits much that don't have a split ring on there, so I can't change out the hook. Not sponsored by this company. I'm not sponsored by Demiki, but I really do like this one. And by the way, all the products that we're talking about today going to be in the description below. So use those links if you're looking to purchase these products anyways. That's a great way to support the channel. But the Demiki Vault is a really good one as far as blade baits. And I would almost say that a lot of the time the blade bait is going to outfish the lipless crankbait in the situation I'm talking about because it falls so much faster. Has more of a whoppy fall. It doesn't necessarily like have a very gracious descent, but it is really fast. It puts out a lot of shine, and it also gets down to the bottom a lot faster too. So it really has everything I'm looking for to get those fish to react. And you're not necessarily looking for the most, natural looking fall all the time. You're looking for something that's just going to get those fish to pop their mouth open and suck it in just out of reaction. And a blade bait does really well. Again, you're yo-yoing this on the bottom primarily. Sometimes you can rip it from the side, and that works too. But in general, it's just kind of like an up and down yo-yo technique that you're going to be using with a blade bait. But the blade bait and the lipless crankbait, both pretty much the same type of situation, just slightly different as far as the sound that the lipless crankbait emits and the blade bait doesn't, and also the speed of the fall. All right, so the next bait, this is one that very few people I've seen, and the guys that have fished this category of bait, and really there's only a couple that are in this category, but there's only a few guys that I've seen fish this offshore on the ledges down here, and that is a Goby presentation, Goby imitation. This is a actually prototype that I had of the Gobyus from Z-Man. This is a very heavy, Goby imitation bait. You can see it's got a molded in weight here, and you got this little, this hook back here. It's somewhat exposed, but it's also protected by that dorsal fin. And the special thing about this and the other ones that are similar on the market is when you rip it up, again, we're getting that yo-yo technique to get those fish to react offshore that are schooled up. When you rip this thing up, it kind of like has a nice spin all the way down, a nice wide, spinning glide to it, which I think works really well. And it's super heavy. Like these come in pretty heavy sizes, so you can get that real quick fall. And so I'll fish these baits pretty much exactly like we were talking about with these other ones, the blade baits and the lipless crankbaits, and I've had a lot of great success with baits like the Gobyus. This is one that does not get a lot of press, but it is a really, really good offshore lead fishing bait. The final one is a rather new technique, because it's not a new technique, but it's a new piece of terminal tackle that's really opened up the door for being more efficient and effective with a this technique that guys have been using, winning tournaments on like Lake Murray for herring spawn fish for a while, and that is an exposed hook but weighted jerk bait. Okay, so this right here is called the Scamper rig, and the Scamper rig is really just the hook itself. Okay, it's specially designed. This is from Core Tackle. It's a new jig head, but it's a straight shank hook with a molded on weight onto the shank of it. And that allows you to rig your jerk bait like this, and with the exposed hook, and have the weight necessary to keep it below the surface. So a lot of times when you're fishing this, you're not necessarily jerking it, you're ripping it, just pulling it straight, just like you would if you're fishing at a blueback herring lake. That's how most of the guys retrieve their baits to catch fish in those type of situations. But when it comes to offshore fishing, I'm not talking about like super deep water, because I mean, this is a 16th ounce weight, and I think that's the heaviest that they've got in the Scamper rig. So you're not going to get it down to like the 20-foot zone, but if you're fishing like 10-foot, you know, ledges and fishing for the schools of bass that are in that 10-foot zone, this is a really good one. It takes a little bit of patience, but you cast it out there, let it go down to the bottom into that school, and then you just rip it, you know, rip it or fish it like a jerk bait, you know, with sharp little jerks to make it go back and forth. And man, but I really do like that kind of pull, because it actually has a real natural like scurrying action as you pull it straight, and it's just another way to get a soft plastic jerk bait down to a depth zone that they're just not used to seeing. And so I've had a lot of success experimenting with this one. This one's new to my arsenal. Still working on all of you know, when to throw the Scamper rig, but it's definitely proven itself as a great tool offshore. So anyways, guys, those products are going to be in the description below if you're interested in them. But those are 4 different baits that if you're really trying to get an edge over other anglers that are fishing good old traditional offshore fishing techniques, these might work even better for you. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you have a bait, a technique that you think nobody else throws offshore that works really well, I want to hear about it in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. I'm going to see you out in the water. Trust the process.